Example number 1 says, and I'll just put the book up here so we can see it and read it from the book. By the way, these books are wonderful tools if you use them properly. It's almost as if they have written the book to teach you the material. A lot of sarcasm today. I'm not grumpy though. All right, so let's read it right out of the textbook. It says, the numbers in Table 1.1 show the growth of the minimum hourly wage from 1955 to 2005. The table also shows the monthly hour or the minimum hourly wage adjusted to the purchasing price of 1996 in dollars. Answer the following question using only the data in the table. It says, in what 5-year period did the actual minimum hourly wage increase the most? Next, in what year did a worker earning the minimum hourly wage enjoy the greatest purchasing power? C, it says a worker on minimum wage in 1980 was earning nearly twice as much as a worker on minimum wage in 1970, and yet there was general pressure to raise the minimum wage again, and why? So now let's look at this table, and I'm going to zoom in and take a picture of it so we can really kind of focus on it and think about it. If my book will cooperate with me. Okay. So the questions were, and just to restate it again, let me pull this picture up while I'm doing this. Here we have a picture of the minimum hourly wage from 1955 to 2005. And so the questions that we had, 3 questions that we were asked to answer. And the first one was Part A, when did the hourly wage increase the most? What 5-year period did the minimum hourly wage increase the most? Okay, so as we look at that, how could we determine, and this is based on the purchasing power of $1996. So let's talk about the table and the values and what they represent. What does that mean, purchasing power in 1996? Does anybody have an idea what that means? Yes?
Maybe it's how much money it was back in 1996. Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. How much money was worth in 1996? Just so that you know, Mr. Adams has been on the planet for about 4 decades. And I used to purchase, and you'll probably hear your parents say this, I remember when gasoline only cost 80 cents, 90 cents. I remember when you would buy this and it only cost a gallon of milk used to cost $1. So prices increase along with the minimum wage. So to kind of standardize purchasing power, what they did is they picked 1996 and how many things could you buy? And they kind of standardized how much the value of the dollar was and how much what you could purchase and stuff, and then compared it to the minimum hourly wage of that particular period or time. So in 1955, we see here that the minimum hourly wage is 75 cents an hour. Okay, but in 1996, the purchasing power was $4.39. So if you compare that to, say, 2005, where the minimum wage is $5.15, okay, the purchasing power was $4.15. And so we're going to just look at this data and try to determine what it tells us. A couple of things I want to point out. The minimum wage has kind of had a steady increase for the most part over the past 50 years. it's not the same every year, but it has definitely increased every year. However, if you look at purchasing power, we see here that purchasing power increased and increased and increased, and then had a decline, and has been declining for the most part ever since. So much so that our purchasing power has gone way below what it was 50 years ago. Okay, so we got to figure out what that means. But the first question is, what 5-year period did it increase the most? Well, what do you guys think? Just looking at the data, what do you guys think? The easiest way to determine that, and I'll show it to you, is between 1975 and 1980, because it jumps a whole $1. So from 1975, it was $2.10, and in 1980, it was $3.10. So that is a change of $1. And so what I did is I wrote that right here on the on a piece of paper so you guys can see that. So that means that we increased $1 whole. Whoops, why did I write 180? In a 5-year period. So that's pretty good. Right? Okay, now let's go back to that and take a look and see what that means for Part B. Part B says, in what year did a worker earning the minimum wage enjoy the greatest purchasing power? So when did the workers get the most purchasing power? $1970, right? And so what's another way to rewrite that question? When could they buy the most stuff for the money they have, right? And we see here clearly that it's 1970. So again, what I wrote down is, what year did they have greater purchasing power, or the greatest, I should say, right? 1970, because that is when purchasing power was at the highest amount. So then Part C asks us, just based on looking at the data alone, although the minimum hourly wage has gone up, a worker on minimum wage in 1980 was earning nearly twice as much as a worker in 1970, yet there was great pressure to increase the minimum wage. So now, why was there such a great pressure? So what they're saying is look at this. From 1975, well, better yet, look at 1970. From 1970, the minimum wage was what? Come on, guys, it's right there on the screen. Somebody raise their hand, say something. Look alive. $1.60, thank you. So then if you jump to 1980, what was the minimum wage? $3.10. So it was almost twice as much. But people still wanted more money. Why is that? Well, let's look at the purchasing power. When was the purchasing power the highest? 1970. They can buy more stuff even though they were getting paid less. But what happened in 1980? What happened to that purchasing power? It went down. So even though they were making almost twice as much money, they didn't have as much purchasing power because the cost of items and products had gone up. So this is kind of a scaled number that lets us know basically like how many hours do you have to work to purchase something, okay? So even though they were getting paid more per hour, they still had to work more hours to purchase the same things. Does that make sense? So it's all based in the numbers. All the answers are here in the numbers, okay? Any questions on that? Okay, good.